Hey, Wednesday, May 23rd, Pauly and Teddy, Sports Spit, Betting Insight today, SBRpicks.com. Big show coming up. Pivotal Game 5. Celtics return at home to take on the Cavs in Game 7. Tampa Bay hosting the Capitals. The winner goes to the Stanley Cup Finals. The loser goes home. Fourth year in a row, we've had a Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Team previews, AFC North, the Bengals today. Talk about Cincinnati and the play of the day. Try to keep the winning streak going before we get out of here. Who saw that coming, huh? Well, Rockets bet down from 8.5 to 7.5, but they score 95 points and they win. In a crazy game of runs, they were down 12-0 out of the gates. And then the Warriors at home with a 16-game winning streak in the playoffs scored 10 points in the final 10:45 of the game. I can't believe it. Rockets get the big win, series tied at 2.
I'll be honest, Paulie, I had a Rockets ticket in my pocket last night. And I didn't feel good early when Golden State got out to that big lead. I'm like, oh, boy, I don't want this to be a blowout. Let's not this be another 40-point job. And then after the Rockets made that huge run to take over the game in the second quarter, when Golden State flipped it right back in the third, boy, I didn't feel good going to the fourth. But Houston got it done. What do we call it? An epic defensive stand. The Rockets had 3 field goals, 3 made shots in the final 12 minutes of that ball game. The last 3 minutes was as ugly as it gets. They had that 21-4 run in the fourth quarter, and then game tight late. Brick. Didn't matter who was shooting, Paulie. Bottom line, under was the right side. Rockets ended up being the right side, and now Golden State's got to steal another one at Houston if they're going to survive in advance and move on to the finals.
They were tired. They ran out of gas. All those guys played 40 minutes. Curry got in foul trouble. Thompson left with an injury, came back. No Iguodala. And Durant started 5 of 16, and they still led by 12 in the fourth quarter, but they lose. I can't believe the Rockets won a road game where Tucker scored 4, Capella 8, Ariza 9, and Gordon was 4 of 14. So we said before the series they would get a game if Harden and Paul went off, and if they had the game where they were lights out from 3. There's 2 of the wins right now. And how about the adjusted series price? The Warriors are $250 at the Westgate here in Vegas. They're playing the 1 seed with 65 wins. It's a best of 3, and 2 of the games are on the road, and they're still $250.
Which speaks volumes about the betting market's respect for the Golden State Warriors and the fact that this has been a zigzag series so far. We've seen each team respond to a loss with a much better performance next time out. We're already seeing some Golden State money in Game 5 at Houston, so I'm not surprised at all to see the adjusted series price still with the Warriors as better than 2-1 chalk. Kevin Durant. I think going up 10. Going in the fourth, it was a good opportunity for us to kind of take control, and we didn't. So I definitely wish I had that last play back. I'm going to watch film, see what my options were, and hopefully, if I'm in position again, I'll be better. Draymond Green. We know we made a lot of mistakes down the stretch in that fourth quarter, so we'll be fine. I believe that the Warriors will be fine. I think the markets believe the Warriors will be fine. Houston stole one last night, just like they stole one in the first night of the NBA season. Remember when they rallied back late to beat Golden State in Golden State? I thought that win on the opening night served them well last night, but it's not going to have any impact moving forward as we look ahead to Game 5.
Durant's got to take that shot. Then Thompson has to pass it to Durant, who's open for 3 once Ariza closed out on him. And Kerr wanted the timeout. Green signaled timeout. They didn't see it. And Chris Paul, you have to miss that free throw on purpose with 0.5 seconds left. Come on. Reggie Miller, you got to make it. Shows what he knows. Is that TNT broadcasting crew's an abomination. But you have got to miss that free throw with 0.5 seconds left. And Curry actually had a good look at it before he missed. So that's wild there. So, hey. Well, at least 2 of these series are going 6. See if they go 7 as well. Game 5 coming up tomorrow night. The total 224 up to 227.5 as well. As another game stays under, not even a chance in that one if you had the over.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a wrong side. The over last night was a wrong side. I mean, that was a loser from the get-go. First time you turn on the TV when the Rockets are, bricking every shot they can in the first quarter, you're already in trouble. But the game stayed 40-something points under the total. Yeah, wrong side loser. All that money came in on the over. The books got to keep every penny.
Tough beat if you had Draymond Green prop points over 11.5. He had 8 at the half. He finished with 11. He missed a free throw under a minute, missed a wide open dunk that would have got it for you as well. That's a horrible beat if you had over 11 and a half for Draymond Green. Bad bets. Arizona, Milwaukee over 8.5 up to 9 with juice. 1-0 final. Arizona's lost 12 of 13. 2 6-game losing streaks in the same month. That's horrible. Bad for the books at the South Point. Look at this. I wonder if it was Mattress Mac, the guy who's got all that money at the furniture store in Houston. $10,000 on the Rockets money line at 4-1, and someone put 50 grand on the Rockets at 10-1 to win the title before the game.
Those are both good bets, obviously. The money line bet cashed, the 10-1 to win the title. If Houston gets out of this series and gets into the finals, they ain't going to be 10-1 dogs against anyone, and they're not 10-1 dogs here. That's certainly a solid wager. When you talk about some of the moves from last night, how'd you like that over, Steve, for Arizona? There's nothing worse than betting over. You're like, oh, yeah, the market's all over it. It looks great. These starting pitchers are going to get lit up. Then it's a 1-0 final. You can't be more wrong than that.
Marlins Mets under 8 down to 7.5. 8 down to 7, excuse me. Big move there. 5-1 final. Red Sox took money with Sale, $2 up to $2.30. They win again. Kimbrel made it interesting in the ninth. They also covered the run line. Bases loaded, 2 outs. He gets out of it. Big move on the Marlins. They won 5-1. 30-cent move on the Reds with Harvey again. He's pitched well since the trade. They won 7-2. And the Cubs, they were $1.20 favorite. Went off the Indians went off $1.20 favorite after being the dog. Chatwood had nothing. 10-1 Cleveland in that one.
Yeah, and most of the MLB moves from last night worked in favor of the bettors. You talked about the Marlins and the under both taking money, right side there. Cincinnati taking heavy money, right side there. The Indians taking heavy money, right side there. Chatwood, once again, can't get the ball in the strike zone. So a number of those MLB results with the bigger line moves, wise guys got it right. Bookmakers paid the price.
How about this tweet from David Purdom, ESPN Chalk? Nevada Gaming Control has granted permission for books to take bets on the 2018 Golden Tee World Championships next month in Las Vegas at the Orleans. Imagine making a price on that, how you have to handicap the field. And imagine betting on yourself to win a video game tournament. I was great at Double Dribble and Tecmo Bowl. And who can forget NHL Hockey 94 on Sega? Imagine if you can bet on that stuff now. You can bet on the Golden World Tee Championships in a couple weeks.
Well, all this stuff's coming. The betting on Madden, it's out there now. It's going to get bigger. Golden Tee. Look, we've all played this game. At some point in some bar, you played Golden Tee. Sober, drunk, doesn't matter. The bottom line is, if you can handicap it, if you have some information about some of these guys, hey, it's a new way to wager. Interesting. Maybe make a few bucks off it. I'm sure the limits will be low. I don't expect people to get rich betting on Golden Tee World Championships. But the fact that this type of betting is now legal and attracting attention in Vegas, worth talking about and worth noting for any of you Golden Tee experts out there.
All right, here we go. Game 5, back to Boston. Series tied at 2. Adjusted series price. The Cavs are $2. This is pick. And 206, little money on the Celtics. As we tape this, Cleveland was the favorite earlier in the morning. And the numbers are well documented. Boston 9-0 straight up in ATS at home in the playoffs. 1-6 straight up on the road. And 37-0 all time when they lead a series 2-0. So see if they can close the deal here. What adjustments does Brad Stevens now make? He's been taking some heat, believe it or not, in the Boston media. As Lou went with Thompson in the starting lineup, and he's been able to contain Horford, and they're just attacking and hunting Rozier as they're switching everything, and they're just trying to follow Rozier and going to work on him and the officiating. As well, they called everything in Game 4 as Morris and Brown were in foul trouble. Rozier took some quick shots. Brown took 23 shot attempts as well. What adjustments does Stevens make now that it goes back to Boston?
The biggest adjustment is the Celtics have to make their layups and dunks. They missed 15 of them. When you're missing that many bunnies around the basket, it's going to make a big difference in the bottom line and the end result. That certainly was the case, both point spread wise and straight up wise in game number 4. But certainly the quotes out of Boston don't sound like a panicking team. They don't sound like a young team. Brad Stevens, quote, "It's the best 2 out of 3 to go to the NBA Finals. Doesn't get better than that." Ultimately, Anybody that didn't think this was going to be tough, I mean, everything is tough. In this deal, it's a blast to have to grit your teeth, get up off the mat, and go after it again. That's part of it. Jaylen Brown, quote, very frustrating, but that's life. You keep moving. Brown had another quote that I thought was really good. Just going too fast, too excited, just needed to slow down. We missed a bunch of easy opportunities. We made some bad turnovers and things like that, but we still had opportunities to get in this game and to win. We just have to do a little more on the road, take some better shots, and we'll be fine. Now, the ticky-tack foul issue was certainly a big part of that ballgame. Marcus Morris forced into foul trouble early on, and that really affected the Celtics' game plan. Foul trouble was tough, man. I don't really want to speak on that and then get a fine. At the end of the day, I work hard and work my ass off to defend this position. The ticky-tack fouls, it is what it is. I'll say this. If the ticky-tack fouls come again tonight, that's bad news for Boston. They do better in a more physical game where they can push LeBron around a little bit than in a game where every contact is getting called. So the officiating, in my mind, going to have a huge impact on the end result for tonight. If the refs are swallowing their whistles, advantage Boston. If the refs are calling everything, advantage Cleveland.
You can't guard LeBron if they call everything. You're right. And that's what they did in Game 4. Also, I can't believe they called Morris for kicking his leg out when he shot the three as well. The shot went in, and they waved off the basket. I've never seen that called before on the offensive player. Getting called for sticking his leg out. He wasn't happy about that. Who do you trust on this Cleveland team now on the road? Supporting cast always plays better at home. I don't trust any of these guys with the exception of LeBron. I don't trust Thompson, Love, who's fragile and in foul trouble and has been inconsistent. Corver, J.R. Smith did nothing in the first couple games. George Hill did nothing. Who's going to help LeBron out in this game if they're able to win a Game 5 or Game 7 on the road?
Well, Tristan Thompson had a big Game 4, and he's certainly someone who's capable. You talked about the matchup problems that the Celtics had once the Cavs gave Thompson extra playing time. Certainly Kyle Korver is someone who's capable, along with Kevin Love, and Korver's been relatively quiet in this series. He had a good Game 4 as well. And George Hill, the veteran at the point, is another guy who I think has that potential. And of course, you talk about the two Lakers, who I continue to think have potential for Cleveland, and Larry Nance Jr., two ex-Lakers, and Jordan Clarkson, a couple of guys who are X factors off the bench for Cleveland, have the potential to have that level of impact on the ball game. But, you look at the quote from LeBron, Cleveland's not trying to reinvent the wheel here. LeBron, quote, if you look at the 4 teams in the postseason now, Houston is trying to find mismatches. Golden State's trying to find mismatches. Boston and us as well. We're all trying to find mismatches for us to try to be successful offensively. It's not much of a secret. And that's the truth. It's not much of a secret. Who do you trust? Which coach do you trust to make the adjustments here? I know that it's not necessarily easy for Brad Stevens, but I trust Stevens to make adjustments in that regard. I agree for Game 5.
I agree with that. I disagree with Clarkson. He stinks. He shouldn't play. His defense is atrocious, and he thinks he's good. So when he comes in, he starts jacking shots, ill-advised shots as well. I wouldn't play him if I'm Lou. Anything you want to answer with the chat?
Yeah. We got a bunch of stuff coming in on the chat this morning. Rostradamus, how could Jermaine miss that dunk? I've never bricked a dunk in my life. I have, and I can't dunk. That was on we're using a springboard to get up there. I really can't dunk.
Great, I can't believe that.
Rockets fans. Oh. Yeah, I know. Giorgio Michelascio, esports is a huge market, and it's only growing. 100% correct. Rich Banks want to know what advantages the Rocket does have on the Warriors. Well, they showed a little toughness last night. Certainly on the defensive end, Houston was able to bring it. What else we got on here on the chat? There's so much. I really appreciate the comments, guys. We do our best to go through it.
Yeah. If you want to make money, just bet against Charles Barkley. Go against Charles Barkley every game. Twice he has said the Houston series is over and that the Warriors would sweep them. He said the 76ers were a lock. He had the 76ers in Game 2 and for the series. He said the Sixers were going to the finals. He had Toronto beating Cleveland. He had Toronto making a deep run. I mean, everything that he said, he mush. Put him in the bathroom. I mean, he's terrible. Everything Barkley says, go the other way. And I will agree, though, with the Rockets have shown a lot of toughness and a great job defensively. And the question about the esports, too, huge. William Hill takes bets on that. And the Luxor built a big esports venue for what's going on. So very good. SportsBit 2.0 betting insight today. Pauly and Teddy. I'm at Real SportsBit. He's at Teddy_Covers. Follow us on Twitter. We always send out the links to the shows by 11 o'clock, 11:30 Pacific. And thanks to Intertop Sportsbook, 22 years online. Sign up, deposit, win. AFC North, the Bengals. Win total 6.5 or 7. 9-7 ATS last year. 8-6-2 to the under. 7-9 straight up. Got the big win as they ruined the Ravens season, scoring on the last play there. I think it was 4th down and forever to allow the Bills to get in the playoffs. I don't understand it. He must have pictures of somebody. Marvin Lewis is back, even though he's 0-7 all-time in the playoffs, and they bring him back. And there's a lot of things to be concerned about. Number one is, other than if they shut down Green, who am I throwing to? Who takes the pressure off Green, and who can be that number 2, as it was an unmitigated disaster. That first-round pick, top 10 pick, Ross, never got on the field.
Sure, but that doesn't mean that John Ross isn't going to get on the field this year. I suspect that he will. Let's start with Marvin Lewis. His quote, "You have a lot of change, new field, new ideas, new offense, new defense, new people." All of that is true. The fact that Marvin Lewis is back with Andy Dalton once again for a duo that has, failed repeatedly in the postseason, but been a decent, better than average regular season team. Not so much last year. Last year was bad. And I thought that Marvin Lewis really coached this team up when things were lousy last year and everyone got hurt and the season was an unmitigated disaster. I thought the players bought into what Lewis was selling. I thought they competed all year long. And I thought, based on that metric, he deserved to come back. Based on the playoff wins metric, not so much. Of course, when you look at Cincinnati, the biggest issue from last year, they didn't take the ball away. The defense, which had been particularly strong in recent years, only 14 takeaways, ranked 31st in the NFL in that category. 23 giveaways, that's about the league average. -9 margin in turnovers, number 27 in the NFL. So that certainly wasn't good. But when it came to personnel moves in the offseason, they didn't do a ton. They had a big blockbuster deal on draft day to bring in Cordy Glenn from Buffalo, looking to shore up the offensive line. But when you look at the basic makeup of this roster at the end of last year and the basic makeup of this roster coming into this year, fairly comparable.
McCarron leaves. Barkley's now the backup. I don't like that. You have a nice 1-2 punch with Croft and Eifert at a tight end. The problem is Eifert's good, but he's never healthy. Seems like the guy's questionable for every single game. So that's going to be a problem there. His big issue is the health. And remember last year, they whacked offensive coordinators, changed coordinators right away.
Yeah, Bill Lazor is now the official coordinator for since he took over. Laser, my apologies. Took over a couple of weeks into the season last year when Ken Zampese got fired. And, the offensive line stunk all year last year. Now, Laser has an opportunity to install his offense properly. Quote, "We might need to change some things. Even though something got us to 5 straight playoffs, it was preventing us from getting further. Maybe there's something that can get us a little further. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to let go what's gotten you so far because it's pretty good, but we've got to make sure pretty good isn't enough." The goal for Cincy, run first this season. It's supposed to be an offense that wants to pound the football on the ground behind that revamped offensive line, and that, in theory, should open things up for A.J. Green on the one side and John Ross on the other. If Ross is healthy and can play, there's a reason he was a number 1 draft pick. The guy has speed and talent and could be a legitimate complement to A.J. Green on the other side, especially if the running game is effective.
You got Mixon, you have Bernard, and they took Walton from Miami in the 4th round, too. He was a good running back at college. That's not a bad pick as well. And maybe these guys could help out in the passing game as well with some dink and dunk. What do you have anything else you have on the schedule, or if you want to talk defense?
Sure. Terrell Austin takes over for Paul Gunther on the defensive side, to the coordinator-wise. And, this team's got a good-looking set of cornerbacks. They have William Jackson, who was like last year's breakout star, Drake Kirkpatrick, Darqueze Dennard, Marvin Lewis. Quote, "We have some corners that have a lot of talent and ability. We have to do a better job of utilizing their abilities because, of course, last year they weren't creating the takeaways. At safeties where they have issues in the secondary, and that's where they went in the draft. I like their top picks, no question. Billy Price, the center out of Ohio State at number 1. another revamping the offensive line situation for an offensive line that was bad last year. And then Jesse Bates out of Wake Forest, the safety, with the second-round pick to go along with Sam Hubbard, the third-round pick on Malik Jackson out of Texas, Sam Hubbard out of Ohio State to shore up that defense. Schedule-wise, I mean, it's not easy. You know, they play 3 of their first 4 on the road. They're all tough. Then they get Pittsburgh and then at KC, the back end of the campaign, not easy at all. 3 of their last 4 on the highway. AFC North plays the NFC South and the AFC West. Not a lot of easy wins in those 2 divisions. And the 2 extra games at Indy and Miami, 2 teams that are both supposed to be better this year than they were last year. There's some things I like about Cincy. They really are. I think from a betting standpoint, they're somewhat undervalued coming into 2018. But from a season win perspective, you can find 6.5s, over 6.5s with juice, or under 7s with juice, both widely available right now. You can call it 6.75. I'm not in a rush to bet the Bengals over the total, even though I think they're going to cash some tickets against the spread.
All right. Very good. Tomorrow, the Browns, and it's starting already. Wise guys don't bet the Browns. So we'll talk about their team preview tomorrow. They're lined at 5.5. 1 win the last 2 years. Time to fire up and turn on the shot clock. Who wins tonight? Game 7. Does it get any better than this? Loser goes home with the golf clubs. The winner goes to the Stanley Cup to take on the Knights. The Knights would have home ice against the Capitals and would go to Tampa. Stanley Cup Finals start Memorial Day at 5 o'clock Pacific. I'm taking the Lightning 5-2 all time in Game 7s. 3rd time in the last 4 years they're in this situation. Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals. And the Capitals, the worst Game 7 team. They're 4-11 in Game 7. Although I think if one goalie will implode, it would be Vasilevsky, as Holtby's been solid. He's played well too. But you saw what happened in the first 2 games of this series, that he couldn't stop a beach ball. But I will take Tampa Bay. I think they're much the best, and Tampa Bay wins the entire thing. And they will be hoisting the drinking from the cup when it's all said and done. Give me Tampa at home in this one tonight. Can't be. Stay out of the box if you're Washington, though. 6 of the 15 goals in the series by Tampa on the power play.
Well, I'll say this much. Every bookmaker in Las Vegas will be rooting for you and your side tonight because they know that the Knights would be favored over the Caps in the final, whereas they'll be dogs should they face Tampa Bay. I'm no hockey expert. I'm not going to claim to be a hockey expert. This much I know, though. We have an underdog who has been winning on the road, not a little bit, not a couple of times, over and over and over and over and over again in every round so far in the playoffs. The Caps closed out Columbus on the road. They closed out Pittsburgh on the highway. Just saying. Yep. Just saying. All
right. Very good. Money time. Play of the day. Let's stay hot. Back to this game. Betting number 53 and 54. They only called, what, 3 penalties in Game 6? Don't decide the game. Let them settle it on the ice. Not a lot of power plays. 2 good goalies. Let's go under 5.5, minus 125 in Game 7. Can't go wrong with an under in Game 7. Let's do that for this one coming up. Loaded show tomorrow. We recap what happens tonight, and then we preview Game 5 with the Rockets and the Warriors. And we'll get to the Cleveland Browns on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com. Thanks for watching.